Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet sporting personalities and learn about their lives and their life stories. Today on our Sport Exchange podcast, let's meet one of South Africa's Foreign Legion of rugby players. He played for the Stormers before moving to Ulster in Ireland, where he became a popular legend and played over 200 times for the province. Oh, he also, by the way, won 2 Irish caps. Welcome, Robbie Diack. Robbie, nice to see you again. Hi.
Thank you, John. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah.
What's it like being back in South Africa?
Yeah, it's something that we've, it came around pretty quickly. 10 years in Belfast and we obviously came back to South Africa for holidays, but living back here now it's been great to be back. Bit of a change to the country, but it's strange being back now and calling this home again.
I'm sure. What changes have you seen?
I think just, you don't have to look far and on the news and watch a couple of episodes of Carte Blanche to see a couple of issues within the country. But I think we have to look at the positive. We made a huge decision to come back to the country. I think, a lot of people are going the other way, and I think a couple of people have frowned at our decision to move back to the country. But I think when we left in 2008, we left for financial reasons. I left to go and pursue my career over there, and I got advice to leave. And to come back to this and to be in Stellenbosch and just to see the beauty of this country, it's amazing to be back and to be around family and friends as well as an added bonus.
Fantastic. Go with your guts. That's what we say. Tell us what you're up to. Tell us about the wine business with Ruan Pina, Ballybosh.
Yeah, so this is something about myself and Ruan. I think Ruan also is a fond, he enjoys a glass of wine on the odd occasion. And we were in Italy on an away trip once and for the Heineken Cup. And we decided that after our flight was delayed, we'd open up a bottle of wine and sit in the airport there and
I'm glad some rugby traditions
no, exactly
continue.
So Ruan he enjoys it and we just chatted about it and we decided with the family connections of Stellenbosch and the wine farm, we decided to try and label and brand our own wine and export it to Belfast, and we did it, and we came up with the name Ballybosh. Bally tying into Belfast means the town of, and then we tried to tie in Stellenbosch, so we called it Ballybosh.
Fantastic.
So it's gone well, and I think the people in Belfast, they love a story, and also to tie Ruan into the wine as well, with his profile over there being as successful as he has been in his career. It was a brilliant venture for us.
Well, tell us about that, because Ruan, you became, I said earlier, a popular legend, but he became an absolute icon, didn't he? He was one of the best imports they've ever had.
No, for sure. I think, Johan Muller arrived and everyone thought Johan was fantastic, which he was, and a fantastic leader. And then Ruan arrived a couple of weeks later. And I think I'd never played with Ruan, but I played against him. And I always, unfortunately, he had a bit of there's a negative vibe amongst him in the South African press, and I'm not sure whether he was really respected as well as he was. Obviously, he played behind Farida Prayer, but as soon as he got to Ulster and he showed them what they could do, it was phenomenal to see the talents. And what is good about Ruan is that he developed so many players around him as well. He really was willing to share his expertise and his skills, and that really enabled players from Ulster and the youngsters there to grow.
There was almost a revolution when the IRFU said, we've got so many scrum halves, we're going to let him go, and he went to France. People in Ulster were angry.
No, they were angry. There were tears all over the show. I think, it was an upsetting time for the Pienaars, just because obviously, personally they loved Belfast, they loved the people, they loved Ulster, and they enjoyed playing for the team. And Ruan's family were all settled, the kids were at school, and his wife loved the country and had friends, and to get told that they can't play there any longer was, there were petitions signed and they went to Parliament and it got serious at a point there. And I think, at the end of the day, they're going to go back to Belfast, whether to play or to live, I'm not sure. But I know they're going to go back and live there.
Isn't that interesting? And how have you found business as a substitute for professional rugby? Do you enjoy it? I know that sounds like a daft question, but when you've come to an end of a professional career, you have to get involved in something. Do you enjoy it?
I do. I think rugby is such an intense environment, and you're constantly, you're forever being monitored, and you're forever training and looking forward to a game, and to have that sort of that pressure and that off-field pressure, and just something to take your mind off games and off rugby is fantastic for players, and that's what's been sort of the players in Belfast and Ulster have been attempted to get away from the pitch and to study, to get involved in business, get involved in courses. And that's what enabled me to get involved in the business and get involved in the cafe side of things. It really took my mind off the game. Obviously you go through injuries, you go through non-selection issues. And to go and work on that was a massive break for me.
Tell us about that side of things, the professional game, because we tend only to see the players who are in form, who are in the side. Because until Les Kiss came as the coach, you were sort of out of the side for a while, weren't you? What is like? How does that work in terms of payment, bonuses, training, whatever? What is your week like when you're not in the A side?
I suppose it is tough. That's one of the downsides to professional sports is injury, one thing, and then obviously selection issues. And it's very demoralizing, training away every week and not being selected for the game on the Friday night. I suppose your pay doesn't change. You might not get a win bonus for the game or get a match fee, but your retainer will stay the same. So the payment issue is not an issue. My folks always used to phone me and say, "Robbie, listen, you're not on the team this week. You need cash." And I said, "No, listen, I'm fine. I'll still get my retainer." I said, "But you haven't played in 2 weeks or 3 weeks." I said, "No, listen, I'm not doing. I'm still surviving over here." So it's but it is. I think the wives and the girlfriends take a bit of a hammering when you're not playing, and it's it is demoralizing, and you do find yourself wondering whether this is the right career to be in, and then obviously you get your break when it comes, and you take it and you try and play and perform as best you can to keep your spot in that team. But when you think about professional sport, and some people think it's the most fantastic thing, it is tough. Injuries and selection issues, and going to coaches and asking why am I not playing and what am I doing wrong and how can I improve, and obviously other players are in form as well. So it's a game of patience.
There was the great story of Jimmy Nicholl when he was at Glasgow Rangers and he was in the second team, and he went to the manager Henderson and he said, "Why am I in the second team?" And he says, "Because we didn't have a third one."
Yeah, that's brilliant,
Again, on that side of things, are you seen as simply assets to be sweated? Or do they say, "Well, hold on, we've got Robbie Diack, he's not in the side, he's clearly getting upset, let's counsel him, let's talk to him, let's reassure him, etc." Tell us how that works. Or does it depend on the particular coach and particular setup?
I think, one thing in Ulster and Belfast that I think they could have improved on was the mental side of things for the players. You only really saw a psychologist who would come in when things were either going terribly or things were going very, very well. There was no time in between where people would speak to players and help them along with their issues. And
maintenance. There was no maintenance.
There's no maintenance plan for players and their welfare. And I think that sometimes that's where, if you're in the 15 or the 23, you get looked after, but if you sort of outside of that, there's a bit of a, not neglect, but you're not as important to them. You're a piece of meat that's not performing. So when we need you, we'll go and pick you up and we'll try and put the pieces back together.
And of course, there was a fair bit of controversy where a couple of the Ulster players were accused of rape and the way they handled it on social media, and they've ended up having to leave the country. Tell us the effect that had on the whole setup, how it affected you, the players.
It was a tough situation, It was something that we had known about for about a year before it broke out, and it was just we all knew that they'd be acquitted from it, and what the story was, and that they weren't guilty. We didn't expect the backlash from the social media afterwards. That was There was a sort of a flippant. They were accused of being flippant in social media, weren't they? I think the players were told to keep quiet, which we all respected, and to stay off social media, which was fair enough. But we all thought that once they got acquitted, and that this will all be over. But unfortunately, once they got acquitted, it just exploded. The social media storm came. The press came. Press from all over the world were there. Press from, they couldn't say anything. It was just so damaging to Ulster and to their profile and to Belfast and to sportsmen in general over there. We could say nothing and do nothing right. And unfortunately, these guys, after spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on legal fees, couldn't get a contract anywhere for 5 or 6 months, and they lost their contract at Ulster and Ireland. And these are two fantastic players with a huge amount of talent and young. And they've now gone off to Brive and Perpignan respectively to go and play for their clubs.
Did the players, it's difficult to be seen to support a teammate with something as controversial, particularly with the Harvey Weinstein issue. I mean, the whole world reacting to gender-based violence, etc. Was that something the team decided we'll support them in private, in public? It must have been very difficult for you.
It was difficult, and I think we felt helpless at a point because we could do nothing about it. We could show no support to them. We could show no. All we could do was meet them on a personal basis and chat with them and show them the support from that point of view. But we couldn't go out as a team. I'm not sure if you recalled Rory Best and Ian Henderson and Craig Gilroy went to court one day, and there was they completely attacked their families on social media. They attacked them personally. So from that day onwards, they said no more boys to go to court. So that we were limited as to how much support we could show publicly, and then obviously the biggest thing was that once we knew they were going to get acquitted, that this will all be over, and that's what was disappointing for us, is that we could do nothing about it, and these two boys were on a pedestal getting abused from left, right, and centre.
Do you think there's a lesson there? I mean, along with the fame, you are up on this pedestal. And do you think that enough is made of that? I mean, we think of sports people all over the world who've thrown their names away by being on that pedestal and then falling short of the standards. Do you think that's something that perhaps sporting organizations need to be more aware of?
I think yes, and there's a lot of talk about educating players of what they can do and what they can't do, and I think the disappointing thing was that it was a WhatsApp message that got them into trouble. It was the message that was sent on a private group. So if you went through everybody's phone, I'm sure there are going to be some dirty messages or something that you'd regret if you're. I know that what you used to say, look in your phones and don't send anything that your grandmother wouldn't approve. That type of thing, because you are on a pedestal. We all do understand that, but you've also got to live your life. But obviously, for the youngsters out there, they do look up to profile rugby players and to sportsmen in general. And I suppose we do have to watch what we do and what we say and how we act. But unfortunately, this just went a bit far. I think if this was maybe 5-10 years ago, with no Twitter, with no Instagram, with no social media, this would have been a completely different story. And they would still be playing for Ulster and hopefully for Ireland. But it's not the case.
Tell us about getting your caps for Ireland. I mean, I'd almost forgotten. I mean, as someone who got 9 caps for Ireland and lost all 9 games. I was
waiting for you to tell me how many caps you got for Ireland.
Yeah, I'm not one of the greats in the Irish team, but you got 2 caps against Argentina, I think, and against Namibia. I mean, was that a bonus for you, or was that something that became part of your ambition?
It was a bonus. It was Argentina and Georgia.
I beg your pardon.
So obviously when I left in 2008. I was playing the Stormers and Gary Gold was the coach at the time, and Gary said to me, Robbie, if you want to have a chance of playing international rugby, I would recommend going overseas because of the depth of players in the country over here.
What was your reaction to that? Because obviously you dreamt of being a Springbok.
No, for sure. I'd always, I remember the day watching the 95 World Cup and watching them win. And I always wanted to be a Bok myself. And I was very, very close with Francois Lowe, and as soon as we came to Stellenbosch together, I thought this is going to be it. We're going to play for Marties, play for Province, play for Stormers, and hopefully one day we'll be Springboks together. And then Flo became a Springbok. Fantastic for him. He's had an amazing career. And then I went off to Ulster, and I decided to change my ambitions and play for Ireland.
But before that, go back to when you were told you're not going to play for the Springboks, rather go overseas. I mean, that must have hit you like a sledgehammer.
It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I can understand it now. Looking back, I really appreciate that advice. But I think when you spend so much of your time training and preparing and hopefully one day dreaming of being a Springbok, to get told that at the age of 20 that you should change your goals, because it's not going to happen. Did
you ever think of pursuing another career, saying that's it with rugby?
No, I didn't. I think I always wanted to play, and I had the opportunity to go overseas to Ulster. And I said it to Gary. I said, Gary, I've got this opportunity.
How did that come about?
We were on a tour on a Super Rugby tour in Australia, and my agent gave me a call to say, Robbie, there's an opportunity to go to Ulster, and it's in Belfast. And I had no clue where it was. I had no clue what competition Ulster played in. I didn't know what currency I get paid in, and I just said no. And 2 weeks later, he phoned me back saying, Robbie, they're desperate to get a number 8. And me weighing at 127 kilograms at the time, I thought, listen, well, I can give them a ball carrying ability 8. And eventually I decided, and after the third call from my agent, I said, yes, I'd take it. And so it came about like that, and I had no clue where it was. I never knew what the political situation was like in Belfast.
I was going to get to that.
What they'd been through, and I think it was a fantastic thing for me, and I'll never look back on that. So my time in Belfast and at Ulster was something I'll never regret.
But the actual decision, I'm fascinated as somebody who played amateur or semi-professional, because we got money under the table. I mean, you didn't know where it was, you didn't know anything about it. 3 calls came. You must have done more research than that, surely, before committing.
Genuinely,
I
I found out that it was in Ireland, but part of the UK, and I found out that I was going to get paid in pounds, and I found out that I was going to earn 4 to 5 times the amount I was going to get paid in South Africa, and that was a decision for me.
And what about accommodation? Did you say where do I stay?
I went over there and I said to them, "What's the deal with accommodation?" They said, "You come over here, we'll find you accommodation for a week or 2." And I stayed with a teammate, Chris Henry.
Yes, of course.
And he's played for Ulster and he's still playing there now. I stayed with him for maybe 5 or 6 days, and then I found an apartment in Belfast. So,
and were you single at the time?
I was single at the time.
Yeah.
So it was a massive call for me, and it was all my family were in South Africa, and I had a brother in London. So to move over there at that young age was nerve-wracking and daunting. But I genuinely, that's what the decision was based upon.
What did you feel like when you got off the aeroplane in Belfast, and I bet it was raining, and it's a fairly grim-looking industrial city when you get there first? Did you think, my God, I've made a mistake?
No, I genuinely, I remember phoning my parents. I just arrived and I got picked up at the airport, and I went straight to the training base, which is a police training base as well. And I thought, cracky, what have I got myself into here? It was the height of summer as well. It's middle of June, July. Yeah. Peaked at about 16 degrees as well for that day, which is typical for a summer's day in Belfast. So it was a big shock, big culture shock. And but I when you look back on those times, and I genuinely think that I was maybe homesick for a day or two, and whether I'd regretted this. And I'd signed a 3-year contract, and I thought, it's any way I can get out of this. But I enjoyed it, and I think I went to boarding school, that helped as well. So, but I did. I missed home and I missed family, but I made the most of it over there.
What is your advice to somebody? Because you come as a high-profile foreign signing. Let me put it this way: the Springboks at that time were, shall I say, slightly higher up the pecking order than they are now. You're huge by Irish standards. You come over with a big reputation. They know they've paid a lot of money. How do you go about getting noticed? I mean, do you keep your mouth shut and let your talking be done on the field? Do you get involved with organization? You must have said, I've got one chance to make a first impression. How do I do it?
I think that's, I think just over the years, as a South African and playing with so many South Africans over there, what they appreciate is the fact that we buy into their culture, and that we go over there and we don't speak a lot. I don't think there's any form of arrogance, from players but we go over there, we buy into their culture, and we give it all on the training pitch and on the field. And if you're not playing, we're trying to help people around them. That's what I said about Johan and Ruan. They were so valuable off the field as they were on the field. And I think that's a South African trend that they appreciate over there. And that's why they've got a relationship with so many South African players.
Where were you? Were you the first South African, or where did you come in the?
No, I think I know Warren Brosnam was there before me. Robbie Kempson was there before me.
Yeah.
So I went over there with BJ Botha.
Yes.
Legend. We were the two together, followed by Pedri Vandenberg was there, Stefan de Blanche, Johan, obviously Ruan Pienaar. Then there's a whole list.
Leon Ludik.
Louis Ludik. Bjorn Herbst, Marcel Coetzee is there now, unfortunately, with his injuries. Jean Daisel, Rob Herring, who's also from Sax and Cape Town. He has played for Ireland many a times. So there's a whole host of players over there, and they they really enjoy the South African setup because of the guys who put the work in on the pitch. They train hard, they play hard as well. Everybody loves the beer over there and loves the Guinness, and that's what they respect.
What were the highlights on the field?
I think on the field, first of all, captaining also a couple of times was a massive highlight for me. I captained maybe 5 or 6 times under Mark Anscombe. I think to go over there and to first of all to play for such a proud province, and
Willie John McBride, Mike Gibson, Sid Miller, all these players.
And you look at all those guys before me, and to captain the province was a huge honour for me. I think playing in the Heineken Cup semi-final in the Aviva Stadium in Dublin was a massive achievement for Ulster. I think.
Tell us about that. Which was the hardest game, Munster or Leinster?
I think Leinster. Leinster I cannot stand playing against. They're very. It's just
arrogant.
I've beat them one. Fair enough, they're arrogant, but they've got a reason to be arrogant because they're bloody good. It's they're a very frustrating team to play against. Brian O'Driscoll, what was he like? Yeah, just a fantastic player. Dirty as well. I never expected him to be as dirty as he was. I always put a huge amount of respect for him and what he did for Leinster and for Irish rugby. But Leinster, such a well-drilled side. They're almost like the Saracens of our league. Not the flashiest team, but they just do the basics so well.
And they have a sort of conveyor belt of youngsters coming through now.
They do.
I don't know if you've seen this Jordan Larmour, this winger now. He scored a try against Ulster that was unbelievable.
No, fantastic pool of players they've got there. I think also, having Joe Schmidt over there for many years was a huge help for them. I think Joe, there's no favoritism with Joe. Joe will help. He'll put as much effort into Brian O'Driscoll as he will to an academy player coming through the ranks. And his attention to detail as a coach is absolutely beyond anything that I've seen before. And I think that's why the Irish team is so well drilled. That's why Leinster are also well drilled, and the habits that they have are just impeccable. What
were the differences going over from South Africa, going to Ulster? I mean, apart from the weather, obviously. Well, I suppose you're from Cape Town. But how would you sum up the difference in approach, in, what do they say now, structures and processes and all those buzzwords?
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, the conditioning is a big thing over there. They are so technically driven to be the most conditioned side in the tournament. That's how they feel. A preseason is going to be won on conditioning, and that's where they base themselves. They'll say, we're going to be the fittest team going into round one of the league, and we're going to be the fittest team at the end of the league. So just and the amount that they look after players from a personal point of view and from a collective point as well. I find that completely different to what's been done over here, just from speaking to players. And I've seen it when South African players arrive in Ulster, that the amounts of conditioning and the amounts of on-field running, the amounts of gym work is completely different to what they're doing over here. And I find players do tend to struggle initially trying to get used to the workload.
So they're fitter than we are.
I'd say it's difficult to say, but I know that players do struggle with the workload when they get there. And they do say that there's a vast difference in the amount of running, gym work, but then also, Joe Schmidt from Ireland. I remember him saying to me a couple of years ago, or saying to the squad, that they just won the Six Nations before, and they'd spent an average of, I think, 18 to 22 hours less than all the other competing countries training than the likes of England, Wales, Italy, Scotland, etc., by doing visualization work in the classrooms. So guys will close their eyes and they will go and visualize plays, visualize their lineouts, visualize their scrums, visualize the kicking plays. So instead of actually doing the physical preparation of the work, keeping the guys fresh, but keeping them mentally focused and mentally sharp on their goals and the plan of attack. What was your reaction to that? Because that sounds so far away from the traditional South African approach. It is, but it's it works, and I think it's I do think there is. There are pros of going out into the field and running and tackling each other and doing proper hit-out session. But they're also pros. They're also the perks of getting guys into a team and into a quiet environment and going over their plays in their head. I think that's the difference for me, is that players know the plan. Players know the exact roles. Players know where they have to be from a kick-off, from an exit, from a 22, from a for the next 3 or 4 phases. People know exactly what their roles are, and they don't expect anybody to fail or to not to do their roles, because that's part of your job. And there's no, you can't not do your role in that team. If you do, you find out and you're out. Nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide, and that's what Joe Schmidt is so good at doing. He'll make everybody feel comfortable within their role, and you're there for a reason, and you fulfill your role, and the team will succeed.
Tell us about the Irish getting selected for Ireland.
Yeah, it's a huge honor. I went to Argentina, and first of all, getting picked for the squad was a fantastic honor for me, and to go and play in Argentina against a physical Argentina side.
Where did you play?
We play. I can't remember the exact name of the stadium or the town.
Not Tucumán, the famous Tucumán.
No, it wasn't. I think it was
Rosario?
Tucumán. It does ring a bell. I think
Okay,
we played the second test there, but I wasn't involved in the second test. We went over there and I just played with the likes of Paul O'Connell, Jonathan Sexton, Conor Murray, and all the guys that I've played against for so many years, and Jamie Heaslip, and to play with them in a test match was something that I'll never ever forget. And it was just a fantastic occasion, and a packed stadium in an electric atmosphere. And to beat them convincingly as well was great for us, and to play the whole game as well.
Were you disappointed you only got 2 caps?
I was disappointed. I was on the bench for a Six Nations game against Italy in Rome. I was 24th man, and Sean O'Brien pulled a hamstring in the warm-up. And I got pulled up onto the bench, and I was desperate to get onto the field, and I remember just walking down from the bench after 75 minutes, and just to go and stand next to the field, just so Joe could see me, saying, "Listen, when am I going to get a chance here?" Doing my own stretches, take my top off, and unfortunately, he never put me on. But I obviously, there are those regrets, but I think just to get the 2, I'm delighted about. And
where's your Irish cap? Pride of place?
Yeah, it's in I think it's actually on a container on the way back from Ireland at the moment. So it's pretty much in the middle of the ocean there somewhere. Hopefully it finds its way back here. But no, huge honor for me, and obviously it's the different shade of green that I really wanted to play for. But to go over there and to change my dreams and ambitions and to play for Ireland, I was very chuffed about.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
To stay so long, because you had a 3-year contract, you said, and yet I've seen you quoted before saying you'd no idea you're going to spend so long in Ireland. Tell us about the decision, because you must have received offers from elsewhere.
Yeah, I think after 3 years, you become eligible for Ireland. So you went over there. They called it a project player. So it was a 3-year contract, and I saw that out, and then I became eligible, and I played for the Ireland A team. And then I decided after 3 more years of being in Ulster, I could get British citizenship as well. So that was a big call for me. I think if I was going to go over there, at least I'd stay there for 6 years, get the passport, and then make a decision from there. I think the biggest change for me was to go from 6 to 9 years. That was the biggest call. But I found out that we were all settled over there. We had a little boy as well, and I think Belfast is a beautiful little town or city, and it's we didn't really want to move, and I felt comfortable within the team. I felt that there was still more to achieve with Ulster. Unfortunately, over the 10 years, I never won anything over there. But I felt like I left at a better place than beforehand. And,
what was your last game like? I know you played the full 80 minutes in your last game. I mean, the crowd reaction and everything, the reaction of the Ulster people to you was very, very heartwarming, wasn't it?
As I said before, I think they appreciate what you do on the field and what you do off the field. And I think to play that last game for me, because I didn't play the last 4 or 5 games leading up to that as well. So thankfully there was a couple of injuries, and I got a chance to play, and you played the full game at 6 as well, because I've been playing a couple at lock beforehand and just destroying my ears. So I played back in the side of the flank there, which is good. And I really enjoyed it, and just to say goodbye to the people and to thank them for what they've done for me as well, because they've been fantastic to myself, my family, and my little boy Fletcher as well. So it was obviously a sad occasion, and also, I mean, it could have been my last rugby game. I haven't officially retired yet, but I think it's pretty much looming that I am done.
Are you still available if somebody came and said, "Hang on a second"? If somebody hears this and says, "We need a
exactly.
flank," are you available?
I always said that I'd love to. I had a chat with Gert Smuller, and I said to him that I'd love to come back and finish off at the Stormers in Western Province, and I've sort of made myself available to them if something did come up. And I also said to my wife and that if something ever came up in Japan, just for a life experience, to go over there and have a crack at that league for 2 or 3 months, So that's something that I'd consider. But now that we're back in Stellenbosch and there's different opportunities over here from a work perspective, I think it's the longer I go, the less likely I am to go back and play. Looking back,
what would you do differently?
even though I enjoyed my time at Ulster for 10 years, I think maybe a change would have been good at some point. I would have loved maybe a stint in France or something like that, you know. I don't think, you know, I've got no regrets with going to Belfast, but I think I would have liked to change. I think obviously, you know, to leave South Africa so early was I think at this time, when I look back now, was a good decision. But I think to have given myself a chance in France, I always look at BJ Boertzer and Pedri Vandenberg. They've played all around the world. And Pedri's now playing rugby and coaching in America, you know, so he's had a huge experience. And I feel sometimes that I'd missed out on that. That's one thing that I do wish I had done.
And to youngsters here who are considering a rugby career, and we know there's certain pressures now, financial pressures in South Africa, and the game in a way is in flux, in a state of flux, many would say. What would your advice be? I mean, in terms of studying, in terms of preparing for perhaps another career, give us your thoughts on that.
When you say as a youngster, I think the first thing to do is to get a degree behind your name. I think that's one mistake that I made, and I came to Stellenbosch and I never finished my degree, and I'm in the process of finishing it at the moment. So I've got one more module to do through.
Were you doing marketing?
Yeah, marketing. So through a university in the UK. So that's one thing that I wish I'd done. But I think, you know, if an opportunity like this comes as a youngster, I would see if I could play as much as I can in South Africa and enjoy it. And if an opportunity does come over, then I would head over to the UK or to Ireland or to Europe and go and experience something over there.
And sorry, continue. Yeah.
It is tough to go over there as a youngster. It is tough, and I learned this, and it's you know, it grows your independence and it makes you independent, but it's not easy. You know, it's going into these foreign countries, especially France, where there's a language barrier. You look at a guy like Anthony Claessens, how well he's done over there, and that he's now fluent in French as well, and Rory Cockett's, and
both French internationals,
both French internationals now as well. So that's I think as a rugby player, to experience rugby in 2 different countries or 3 different countries is something that you should always try and strive towards. And if that's an opportunity, then go for it.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for talking to us, Robbie.
No, thank you very much for having us, John.
What a fascinating insight into the life and times of Robbie Diack. Special thanks to Stellenbosch Academy of Sport. Have you seen the facilities here? They are world class. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app, and follow us on social media at TSE Advisory to make sure you don't miss out. Thanks for listening. Cheers from John Robbie.